Are you struggling to conceive? You have options, and at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group, we'll make sure you have the guidance and support you need. PREG is known for individualized fertility care that's unique to every patient. We take the time to provide a reassuring and empowering experience because we believe that you deserve nothing less. Let us help you on your journey to parenthood. Visit us at pregonline.com to learn more. Get the guidance and support you need at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group.
Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
Well, hello, my paranormal peeps, and welcome back to another Deep Woods Paranormal podcast. My name is Matt Harvey. I am the founder and lead investigator with Deep Woods Paranormal. My wife and I, along with others, investigate everything paranormal in nature. Every week, we will discuss everything from creepy haunted locations to ghosts to Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, and other cryptid creatures, and explore all things paranormal in nature. Well, hello, my paranormal peeps, and welcome back to another Deep Woods Paranormal podcast. We are on today with Phil Webster. He is a psychic. He is also an actor, an author, and a teacher. So he's quite the guy. He's been researching the paranormal and kind of researching mediumship for a long time, and we'll actually start there with him, and maybe he can kind of talk about those four things.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here and meet you both.
Yeah, we're really excited that you're here with us today.
It's cool
yeah, it's kind of, what is it? It's like 11 at night over here or something like that. But yeah, anyway, I'm just about still with it. But yeah, the book is called Letting Glow. It's been out since last spring. It's doing okay. First book that I've wrote. And I think like possibly the sort of catalyst for it was an experience that I had around my mum passing in 2021. So that was really something odd happened the night before she died. And that really spurred me to just sort of go into this deep rabbit hole. You know, I'd always kind of like had an eye on sort of paranormal stuff. I hadn't really touched it for many years. But then this event that happened around my mum passing kind of triggered like a bunch of memories, and I was thinking, okay, like this kind of obviously that was a big thing in itself, losing a parent, but what happened around it kind of made me look back on other things that had happened over my life, and it would seem that every few years something would be kind of tapping me on the shoulder, like for want of a better expression.
Yep.
So is the experience that you're talking about with your mother, is that in the book?
Yeah, I mean, it's how the book starts. So I mean, I'm not really, ruining too much. It's like it's in the first 2 pages. And it's an odd one, because again, I was really close with my mum. She was she lived on a place called the Isle of Wight, which is a small island at the south of England. I'll just kind of set this story up just to sort of give sort of more relevance to what happened. So it was the end of the whole COVID thing. It was the start of 2021. So we've just been through Christmas, various lockdowns, all that stuff. And I'd kept away thinking that I was doing the right thing. I was like listening to what the government was saying and all that stuff. And I was also waiting for a job on a big movie. It was like one of these big Marvel movies. It was I see that you've got Grogu behind you. It wasn't a Star Wars movie, but it was Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yes, we've seen that.
Yeah, so I was waiting to work on that, and I had like a good 4-month stretch on it. I was just like one of the warriors in the whole camouflage thing. But nothing,
cool.
It was good, and I hadn't had any work for a while, and it was a good stretch of work. And if you caught COVID, they would have just kicked you off straight away. So I was kind of mindful of that. And then I was also trying to do the right thing by my mum. Anyway, so point being, I hadn't seen her for a couple of months. And we just gone through Christmas, and I just spent it with my partner. My mum was on her own on the Isle of Wight. So that's a very rural place. She lived alone. She was 76 years old. She had various age-related health problems like, a heart condition and high blood pressure. But I thought, she's going to be around for a while. She would always bounce back.
Right.
from whatever, kind of thing happened. And anyway, so we would FaceTime every day. And on this night, I think we'd spoke maybe 2 or 3 times that day already. And she, I kind of knew her routine. Like I said, like I knew all the neighbors. We didn't have any other family there. It's a really quiet place, and we were in another lockdown. And I called her on this evening, and she kind of, just to sort of explain it, like sort of practically, she had her phone charging on the floor. And as she kind of leaned in and she pressed the button to sort of answer the call, she was leaning in one side, and there was a man leaning in from the other side. And I saw him long enough that I could like describe him. He had like thinning gray hair, glasses, looked like he was maybe mid-60s, something like that. And I was kind of shocked, I was like, well, who the hell's that? And as she picked the phone up, he kind of went out of shot, and she went and sat down. And I was like, well, who's that? And she said, who's what? And I was like, okay.
Because your mom lives alone.
Yeah, she lives alone, and I know all the neighbors. She'd been alone for pretty much a year through the whole COVID thing. I knew her day-to-day routine. She was staying home. She was suffering with depression and the whole lockdown thing, really
hard times.
Yeah, it was, in hindsight, I wish I'd have done things differently, but anyway. So I kind of knew her, everybody that lived nearby, and plus I must mention it was like 10:30 at night, something like that. So there was no one there, and I wasn't there, obviously, so I can't 100% say there was absolutely nobody there, but I believe that there was no one there. And I said, well, who was that? And she was like, who was what? And I said, well, who was the guy? And she was like, no idea what you're talking about, And she just started telling me about her day. And I said, Mom, sorry to interrupt. I said, but who's the guy? And she was like, no one, and she would always do this thing, like if there was somebody with her, and when she was on the phone, she would kind of put on these airs and graces and speak a lot more politely, and it was like impossible to get a conversation out of it, and she wasn't doing any of that. She was just being herself and chatting away. And I thought, well, I don't know. I was like, well, I guess I was mistaken, and although I know I'd seen the guy. And anyway, we spoke for like another 30-45 minutes. She didn't acknowledge anyone at all. Nobody said goodnight to her, nothing like that. It was a very small house. And then when I finished the call, my fiance, she said, like, what was all that about? And I said, well, I saw someone, but she said there was no one there. Anyway, we went to bed. The next morning, got the phone call from a neighbor. They couldn't get into the house, and my mama had passed away. Some point
from the same night.
Yeah, through the night or in the morning. I'm not quite sure. I never really sort of dug into it. I kind of didn't want to know, the full details. Right. But I was like, okay, well, going through the shock of all that, it was just my mom. I haven't really got any other family or anything. This thing kind of sat at the back of my mind. I was like, well, what was that? What are we talking here? And I kind of, it wasn't my main concern, because I was grieving and just crying nonstop, and it was horrible, for anyone that's been through that, you know how it is. And one thing I always say is kind of like, when you lose a parent, you really lose like that one witness to your life, right? That person that was, and you kind of, you feel like you can prepare for it, but it just, it's kind of,
she lost her dad.
Yeah, you can't prepare for it, even if, like when we lost Matt's mom, she was in hospice, so we knew she was going. And they say you can prepare for it, but you can't.
It's like, for me, I feel like it was stepping into an alternate universe. There was this one where your mom was there, and then there's the one where she's not, and it's like,
right.
It's
life changing.
Yeah,
it's life changing. It changes how you see things. It changes your everyday life. And like you notice, like, okay, I'm gonna pick up the phone and I'm gonna
that's just stopped now, and we're nearly at the 3-year mark, and I got to say that now you said that, I'm realizing that's not happening, but that's been very recent that I was still kind of going through those motions, but anyway, so, I went to work on this movie, and I kind of didn't speak to anyone for like a month or something. I was just kind of like had my head buried in books, and there was a lot of people on there. And then eventually at some point I sort of came around and started socializing, and I told someone this story that I just told you, and they said, well, obviously that's like a spirit guide, or, and I was like, okay, I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. I mean, like, I wasn't sure about opening that door,
Right.
like what I kind of, it was an odd one because he didn't look like anyone I recognized. He didn't look like my dad. He didn't look like an uncle, anything like that. So it was just this thing that had happened, but it wasn't really comforting. But it definitely happened, and it was just such an odd thing. And anyway, so this person suggested that I start asking for signs. So just quickly, I'll just tell you about kind of the first thing that really happened. So with me and my partner, we'd moved into a new apartment around the same time that I was working on that movie, and I got a bunch of Blu-rays, right? They're kind of useless now or whatever. But anyway,
We
so
still
I'd got
use
all
them.
these.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about I might get back into it, but anyway, I'd got all these Marvel movies, and I was putting them away because I'd been on this film the whole time, and pretty much my partner, she just moved us in on her own. I've got to give her credit. I didn't do anything. So the least I can do is put these things away. So I got this box of Blu-rays, and I noticed, and sorry, I always forget to mention this, but I was like, okay, let's do this ask for a sign thing. I was like, all right, Mom, if you're around, give me a sign. So anyway, I went about putting away these Blu-rays, and I noticed that the one that was missing was Doctor Strange. And I thought,
And you
well,
were just on that film.
how weird. Yeah, I'm working on this film every day. This is my day off. And I got all the rest of them, and I was just like, well, that's so annoying. They're all in one box in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, well, whatever. And I put them away, and an hour or something later, I came across like a stack of books, like the other side of the apartment, and this Blu-ray was sitting on top of them. And I was like, well, that what the hell's that doing there? That's kind of odd. And then all of a sudden, it kind of triggered that. Oh yeah, I just asked for a sign. And the book underneath the Blu-ray was poking out, and the author's name said Maureen, which was my mum's name. And then the book underneath that, part of the title poked out saying Living. And that's all I could see. So I've got Doctor Strange, Maureen, and Living about an hour after I asked for a sign. So I was like, again, I don't know. The skeptic in me overrides everything all the time, but I'm like,
Right.
all right, well.
Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
Don't get your tinsel in a tangle. Plato's Closet in North Charleston and West Ashley can help make your holiday easier with cash for clothes. Sell us your gently used trendy styles to earn cash on the spot. We need your denim, dressy clothes, sweaters, boots, and more. Plato's Closet buys and sells sustainable styles. Earn cash to make holiday spending less stressful. Don't get your tinsel in a tangle this year. Simply get cash for your cool clothes at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
That's kind of a sign, right? Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, so that was kind of the first thing, and I did started reading some books on mediumship, and again, I'll sort of I'll backtrack with the other things that had happened in the past, but I'd read a book by a medium, an author called Claire Broad. I didn't know where she was from. She could have been from, sorry, I listened to an audiobook. So she could have been from the States, she could have been from Australia, the UK, or whatever. And anyway, the book started with in a cemetery in London, where she had her first experience as a child. Like, her grandma came through and gave her a message when she was like 4 or something like that. And the cemetery was across the street from where I lived, right? This random book out of nowhere, right? Wow. And I'm like, what are the chances of this again?
Another sign.
Yeah, I mean, she told this story about how she was in Richmond. It's a place called Richmond Cemetery, and I could literally look out my window and see the cemetery, in this place that we've moved into. And I was like, well, that's kind of odd. And I listened to the whole book, and it helped. It was comforting. It was on about, talking about that we go on, and obviously what you would expect it to talk about from a medium. And pretty soon after that, I saw that she was having a course at a place called the College of Psychic Studies in London, which is essentially like the X-Men school or something. Right? It's just like this. I was like, the College of what? Psychic Studies, all right.
Yeah.
So I went along to her class and we kind of hit it off. And I did tell her a few stories that I'll tell you guys about. And she was the first person to be like, oh, well, no, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That means that, and this means this, things that had happened years before my mum passed. And I was like, well, maybe there's just something to this. We hit it off, became like friends very quickly. And then the next step was that I stumbled across the spiritualist church. I think you guys have them here and there.
Yeah, I think we have some here in the States.
They're like 10 a penny here. Like you can't walk around London without running into one somewhere. And I didn't know these things were a thing either, Right. So spiritualist church, they've got a medium. They pretty much all have the same formula. They'll have a medium, typically on a Sunday night, that will just give a demonstration of mediumship. And I was like, well, I'm going to go along to this. This was probably 3 months after my mum passed. And I showed up this one night. And again, I don't know what it is, like the skepticism, like even though I believe in these things, I constantly question it. I don't know.
I do the same thing. I do the same thing. Yeah,
you have to.
It's weird. But then I tell people, sorry,
everything would be a ghost, or everything would be this or that.
Well, yeah.
And this one keeps me honest. But yeah, I mean,
yeah. Absolutely, and that's the thing. The thing is, when I tell people my story and they're like, "Nah," I'm like, then I get offended, But we'll do exactly the same thing. But anyway, I went along to this demonstration of mediumship, and I'd got really weirdly paranoid about it. I put all my social media stuff to private. I don't know who I thought knew I was going there. No one knew I was going there. Just showed up, and she just worked her way around the small congregation in this small church. And she was just getting like affirmation after affirmation. People were just like, yeah. And I was like, this is kind of nuts. By the time she got to me, and she didn't go to everybody, but she came to me and immediately she said, oh, you're a medium, And I was like, no, but I'm looking into it, And first off, she started telling me about a guy that had died, and I couldn't place him for a long time, but just to sort of cut the story short, as soon as I realized, something clicked, and I was like, oh shit, she's talking about this guy from when I was like 20 years old, and everything she said just matched completely. And just before she finished, she said, oh, I have a lady here that's recently passed, and this was really the game changer for me. So this medium, she had a very strong London accent, like a Cockney accent, and all of a sudden her accent changed. And it was my mum's accent. It was like a Northern English accent, and there's like a very clear distinction between them. And she didn't say much. She just kind of described the conditions around her passing, and she talked about actually being lifted up by angels and all this kind of nice stuff. But it was the accent changing. I was just my heart was racing, a lump in my throat, and that was really the game changer for me. That kind of, I was like, well, this woman, I've never seen her before in my life, and it was my mum's voice that came through essentially.
Wow.
So that was it, that kind of really was the catalyst for the book essentially. And I started writing it about all of those experiences, learning about mediumship, which I've been doing for the last few years now. I guess where are we? Yeah, about to hit my 4th year of actively kind of like being on it. And then like I say, it kind of opened up all these other memories that I was like, okay, well, actually, maybe that was a thing, and that definitely was a thing, and all these things that we sort of, you get older or what have you, or you get cynical somewhere along the way, and you kind of dismiss these things.
Right.
And what I felt like so many of them will be sort of fleeting. I mean, you guys know, there'll be a flash in the corner of the eye, or or even faced with experiences like I had around my mum passing, I still would question it, and it still wouldn't make sense in the way that everything else makes sense. So when I kind of went back and looked at other things that had happened over the years with a sort of different lens, it seemed like this had been my, I hate to sound grandiose and say calling, but I feel like that was it all along. Everything kind of clicked into place through that. Yeah. Anyway, I'll stop talking. Sorry.
That's okay. I have a question to follow up with that. So now that you feel like this is your calling, are you actively pursuing how do you say it? Mediation or mediumship? Sorry. And if you are you gonna like speak at one of those churches that you have in town, or how do you go about being a medium in England?
Yeah, I'm kind of sort of feeling my way around it. So this happened. I mean, I went along. I would go to this church, the same place where I got the first message, and I probably went like a handful of times over the course of a year. I wasn't kind of running there every Sunday or anything. I probably went 5 or 6 times, and every time it would be the same thing. The medium would be like, "Oh, you're a medium," and some of them were being so specific about people in my life. Like my dad came through at one point. I mean, to absolutely no sort of error. She described him perfectly. I don't know if he's alive or dead. I haven't seen him for 20 years. I presume apparently he is dead. But anyway, excuse me. But it was, I was like, okay, well, yeah, that's him. And everything she said about the way he treated me and my mom and stuff like that. Nailed it. So like, and I'm not saying that absolutely every medium that I've experienced have been like amazing. There's been a few that have been like, well, I've got this older person here and they might be a grandma, you know what I mean? The sometimes they're vague. But yeah, it did sort of, really pique my interest, and I met a couple along the way, and one invited me to a development circle. So you basically just show up there and sit with a few people. We're not allowed to tell each other anything about our actual lives, so essentially strangers, and then we'll practice on each other. One will be the sitter, and we'll kind of open up, and then try and give them some messages, and they'll say if it makes sense or not. Yeah, pretty much straight off the bat, I've had like I've always said 100% success rate. The other day I didn't, so that kind of squashed that, but I was doing kind of really well with it.
There's always going to be a time where it just doesn't work out. Because I've been to several mediums. So here in the States, they do like almost like a theater show, but it's a medium, and then you can pay to go to the medium, and they kind of are very broad though, and then they'll like go over there. They're kind of like the ones on TV, and sometimes they're really good, and sometimes they just.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to. Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details. With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
With Miller Mott College's online programs, you can choose when you study. Our online programs give you the flexibility to make education work with your schedule. Earn your degree without derailing your life. Visit us online at miller-mott.edu. That's miller-mott.edu.
Nothing's hitting.
Well, sometimes messages get crisscrossed too.
Oh yeah, it's true. It's a room full of people.
Spirits are here and then they're gone, and then they're here and then they're gone, and then
right. And it's like, okay, I'm with this person, actually, no, I'm with that person.
Feels like it's full of people, and it's like everybody's pushing. It's like a riot almost. Everybody's pushing their way to try and get to the front. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, well, that's what I've heard definitely from a lot of mediums that have been working for 20 years. They'll say that it is like that, and they'll just have to kind of try and form an orderly queue, to have people come through each time. Again, I've definitely experienced some that have been better than others. It's interesting though, because here we have a very traditional sort of history with the whole spiritualism thing. I mean, it's a religion now, right? I mean, it's not. I think I don't know. I can't really speak for them, but I don't consider myself a spiritualist, although I have trained with them and studied with them and done workshops and courses and all the rest of it. But I feel that there's a very traditionalist way of doing things, and I feel like a little bit of a maverick coming in writing this book saying, hey, I'm learning to be a medium, this is what worked for me, and this could be what works for you, which is essentially what the book does. Whereas, you know, some of the people that I've been taught by have been working for 20 years. They never did a reading for the first 6 or 7 years. You know what I mean? So there's a kind of, I don't want to sort of upset anyone along the way.
Right. But at the same time, you could be revolutionizing the industry and teaching in a different way. And people grasp that concept, you know, maybe easier than, you know, going to this. I don't want to take anything away from them, but maybe, you know, what you're doing is good. Like,
well,
I haven't had any negativity around it from experienced mediums so far. But yeah, I do want to be respectful of it, and you know, it's got, you know, I'm kind of, again, I'll go into the other stuff, but I feel like I'm really at the start of this journey without actively pursuing this, you know. So
you can put 10 mediums in a room at a location, let's just say that's severely haunted, right? And you know there's X, Y, and Z ghosts there, and that, you know, every medium could pick up on a different spirit, or they might not pick up on anything. It's really like a relationship between you and the spirit, essentially. You know, I can walk through places and I pick up on little things here or there. You know, there's a bunch of little kids running around in here right now. You know, they're attached. We have what we call haunted dolls and Raggedy Ann back there.
He buys attached dolls. It's horrible.
All right.
But Raggedy Andy back there has a little boy spirit attached to him.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, 10 people can go into 10, you know, the same location, completely cold, and, you know, get completely different experiences. You know, all of them can be mediums or psychics or sensitive or whatever. You know, so it's everybody has a different way of going about, you know, doing the research and stuff like that. So I feel, I mean, again, just sort of you know, the last few years, like I can definitely see a correlation between sort of and going to, we were talking about meditation before we started. When I sit in meditation and I'll you know, actively try and sort of like raise, I hate to use the cliches, but raise my vibration, and I can see a correlation between it. You know, things run a lot smoother. And then this last year, when I've got caught up in the, you know, the publicity for the book and all that kind of stuff, then it's the mediumship side has actually taken a backseat, you know, which kind of was the point of, it's kind of like, you know, ironically taking it away when I wrote this book for that, you know.
But you get busy.
Well, yeah, that's it, and I can see it kind of it suffers, you know, when I do. The more I've been open to it, then the more frequently things come, and I suppose that's also where skeptics step in and say, well, you're looking for it, you know. So, but I think it does work like that, you know. I think you have to, you know, you have to be open to it and expect it for it to work.
Right. And there's always going to be a skeptic wherever you go. There's never going to not be that one person.
So that goes into fear, and essentially goes into people not wanting to experience that thing. They don't want it to be real. So no matter what you say, no matter what, they can walk in and see a full body apparition and disappear right in front of them. And no matter what, it's not going to be an apparition. It's going to be something else. So there's nothing you can do. Anyways, we're running out of time, but you guys should go over and check out his book.
Yes, we're going to
link down below in the description. Also his Facebook, I'm sorry, his
Instagram
YouTube channel.
Instagram. Slowly starting with YouTube. But yeah, it's pretty much Phil Webster, Phil with 2 L's. We've got a website, and
we'll have to have you back on here soon.
Yes, you are so interesting.
Yeah. It's always fun to talk to.
It's been a pleasure.
A completely different perspective.
Yes.
So thank you again.
No, thank you very much.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
We'll definitely catch you on the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I'd love to come back.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.